Hello everyone, I wanted to give a quick tutorial on how to use my new Space Engineers Mod Debugger. First thing you'll need to do is download the Mod Debugger from the GitHub website. When you download the debugger, make sure you mark the file as safe to use for Windows, otherwise when you extract it, the file may be locked by Windows. The way you do that is when you go to the zip file, you right-click, go to Properties, and down here under Security, if you see this section, it won't even show up if it's not blocked. Unblock it, click Apply, see how it disappears, and you can OK out. Now we can extract the file. So I'm going to extract this to the Mod Debugger folder. You can extract it anywhere, but just remember where you extract it because you'll need it later. Okay, now in my mod, I'm going to tell my mod to start using Space Engineers by going into the Properties page of my mod, going to Debug, Start External Program, and then point that at your Space Engineers directory. And this will launch Space Engineers when you click the Start button. However, we also need to pass it a command line argument to tell it to use the plugin. The way we do that is we do plugin and then the path to the plugin. It's important to make sure you put quotes around your path if it contains a space in the file name. The second part of using the Mod Debugger is to actually invoking the debugger. I've added a file to the zip to make this easy for you. So if we add existing item, and in the Mod Debugger folder, there's this moddebugger.cs file. What that does is it adds a class that acts as a wrapper around all of the system diagnostic debugger functions. That way it's safe to call these even if you don't have the Mod Debugger loaded, and you won't get flagged for having not whitelisted files, because when the Mod Debugger is not active, it uses these regions to get rid of all of the code that is blacklisted. So we need to actually invoke the debugger and get it attached. The easiest way I find to do that is put it in the static constructor. So we do mod debugger dot launch. Now if you look, actually you can see I've recreated all of the functions in the standard debugger that's in System Diagnostics. And now when the first instance of our game logic component gets instantiated, it's going to launch the debugger. Let's start it up. When you start it, Space Engineers from inside Visual Studio, you'll get this window. Steam wants to be the one who actually launches the application, so it actually will stop at the session that you started and then give you this prompt. When you click OK, it'll just start a new session, but your debugger won't be attached. That's why it's important to have that line to reattach the debugger on this second session. So I'm going to create a new world, and I'm going to load up my mod. And I'm going to launch it. And then while the map is loading, it's going to launch that static constructor. So the static constructor is run, and now we get this just-in-time debugger screen. We can attach to an existing running instance of Visual Studio or launch a new one. It might actually be even easier to just always launch a new one for what you're about to see next. So if I launch my existing debugger, my existing solution, you can see we are now stopped inside Visual Studio. However, if you notice, we are not in the Mod Debugger CS, but actually in this randomly named file. When Space Engineers loads a mod, it compiles the files, and it needs to generate random file names for each file that is compiled. So we're not actually in our project. So for example, if I go back to my mod and I put a breakpoint, you'll notice breakpoint is not going to be hit. If we tell Visual Studio to continue, once our map is loaded, we can go add our custom block, and you can see the breakpoint did not get hit. However, if we switch back to Visual Studio and we open some files, if we go to the file where we extracted our project, or if we extracted the mod debugger, you'll notice there's this temp files directory now. These are the files Space Engineers generates while it's compiling the code. What we need to do is we need to select the CS file that is our code but recompiled. I just know from my previous demos that it's going to be one of these three CS files of the 0, 1, and 2. Each different assembly will have a different random name. This assembly is actually the stats mod, which is included as part of Space Engineers. So if I open those three files, we can see if I put a breakpoint in this file, the breakpoint is fully colored in. If I go back to the game and place a block, we can see the breakpoint is hit. Once our breakpoint is hit, we can use all of the tools we have in Visual Studio, like the locals window and everything else, to be able to debug our mod. To use the Space Engineers Mod Debugger from inside Steam instead of launching it in Visual Studios, right-click on Space Engineers in Steam, go to Properties, go to Set Launch Options. In here, we put that same string. And once we launch Space Engineers, and create a world with our mod, we will see that exact same just-in-time debugger screen. This time we can just choose a new instance of Visual Studio. And then tell it our files that we are interested in. And then we can put in our breakpoints and continue with our testing.